There's a moment that follows living without reference where another familiar structure quietly dissolves. Direction, not movement, not choice. Direction as a concept. The idea that your life should be heading somewhere specific. That there should be a clear vector, a forward motion you can describe. For most of our lives, direction is comforting. Tells us we're not wandering, that our actions are adding up to something, that even if things are hard, at least we're on our way. But when reference points fall away, identity, story, meaning, direction often goes with them. Not suddenly, gradually. You don't wake up one day and feel lost. You wake up and notice you're no longer checking where you're going. And that can feel unsettling, because direction has been how we reassure ourselves that life makes sense. I remember noticing this not as confusion, but as a strange neutrality. I wasn't motivated toward anything in particular, but I wasn't stuck either. I was still moving through days, still making choices, still responding, but I couldn't answer the question, so where is this all headed? And for the first time, that question didn't feel urgent. Living without direction doesn't mean you stop having preferences. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means your movement is no longer organized around an imagined endpoint. You're not orienting toward a future version of yourself. You're responding to what's here. This is difficult to trust at first. We're taught that without direction, we'll drift into stagnation. That momentum requires vision. That progress requires goals. But awareness changes the equation, because awareness reveals how much of our direction was actually avoidance. Avoiding uncertainty, avoiding stillness, avoiding the feeling of not knowing. Direction gave us something to hold onto when the present felt uncomfortable. When that discomfort is no longer being resisted, direction loses its function. And that doesn't collapse your life. It simplifies it. You're no longer asking, "What am I becoming?" or "Where will this lead?" You're asking, "What's needed here?" And often you don't even ask that. You sense it. You move toward what feels honest. You step away from what doesn't. Not because you have a plan, but because you're present. Living without direction often feels slower. Not externally, internally. There's less anticipation, less future tripping, less mental projection. You're not narrating where you're going while you're still standing where you are. And that creates a different quality of time. Time feels wider, not rushed, not dragging, just open. This stage can be uncomfortable socially. People like direction. They ask about it. What's next? What are you working toward? Where do you see yourself? And when you don't have an answer, it can feel exposed. Not because something is wrong, but because you're not using the same map anymore. You're not withholding information. There just isn't a destination to point to. This doesn't mean you stop committing to things. You still say yes. You still say no. But commitment isn't tied to a long-term arc. It's tied to fit. You do things because they feel right to do now, not because they're part of a larger story. That kind of living is hard to explain, but it's deeply grounded. Living without direction also changes how failure feels. When you're moving toward a destination, failure feels like deviation, a setback, proof that you've gone off course. Without direction, there is no course to leave. There are only responses. You try something, it works or it doesn't. You adjust. Nothing collapses. Nothing needs to be reframed. You don't need to rescue the narrative. This brings a surprising amount of peace, because so much anxiety comes from protecting an imagined future. When there's no future image to protect, you're free to respond honestly. You're not afraid of choosing wrong. You're just choosing, and choice becomes lighter when it's not carrying the weight of destiny. This stage also reshapes motivation. Before, motivation was tied to outcome. I'll feel better when, I'll relax once, this will all make sense if. Now, motivation is quieter. You engage when there's energy. You rest when there isn't. You don't force yourself forward to maintain momentum. You trust the rhythm. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you responsive. Responsive movement looks different than directional movement. It zigzags. pauses. It resumes without explanation. And because of that, it's more sustainable. Living without direction often feels like being carried by small currents instead of rowing toward a distant shore. You're still moving, but you're not exhausting yourself trying to get somewhere else. This stage can feel boring if you're used to intensity. But boredom here isn't emptiness, it's spaciousness. There's less drama, less urgency, less internal pressure. You're not trying to outrun anything. You're not trying to arrive. And that frees attention for the details of living. The way your body feels in the morning. The subtle difference between yes and not now. The relief of not having to justify your pace. You stop measuring your life against imagined timelines. You stop asking whether you're ahead or behind. You're simply here. And from here, life continues to unfold. Opportunities still arise. Relationships still evolve. Decisions still matter. But they're not organized into a linear path. They're responses to the moment. This is often where people say, "I don't know where I'm going, but I'm okay." That sentence would have terrified you before. Now it feels honest, not resigned. Honest. Living without direction also reveals how much trust you've built. Trust not in outcomes, but in your ability to respond. You trust that when something requires action, you'll feel it. You trust that when something no longer fits, you'll know. You don't need a 5-year plan to feel safe. You're not drifting. You're listening. This stage doesn't last forever in the same way. Eventually, movement may reorganize. A direction may appear not imposed, but emergent. Not a goal, but a pull. And when that happens, it doesn't feel urgent. It feels obvious. Until then, living without direction is not a problem to solve. It's a phase of honesty, a phase where you stop pretending you know where life is supposed to go. And that honesty is stabilizing, because pretending takes energy, and you're no longer wasting it. Season 2 is not about finding a new path. It's about learning how to walk without constantly checking the map, without reassuring yourself that you're headed somewhere acceptable. You're learning how to trust movement without direction. Life doesn't need to be pointed somewhere to be lived well. It just needs your attention. If you've felt less certain about the future but more at ease in the present, if you've noticed yourself moving without a clear narrative, if direction feels unnecessary instead of frightening, you're not lost. You're living without direction. And that doesn't mean nowhere. It means here, unfinished, and alive. If this reflection felt close to where you are, you're not the only one. Liking the video helps it reach others who may be learning how to live without needing a clear path. And if someone came to mind while listening, sharing it may help them feel less alone. You're welcome to subscribe if you'd like to continue through this season, not to find direction, but to stay present while it unfolds.